Okay, I'm working on my 2006 Mazda Tribute here. It's a nice, cool fall day. It's been raining here, but I'm going to be replacing the heater core. Now, I have tried this thing out, and even when it was hot and it wasn't putting out any heat whatsoever, it's just basically just blowing through cool. I'm just going to show you another way that I checked this out. Okay, so I got the hood up here. Now, if you'll come over here and look down by the firewall, you'll see your heater hoses down there. There's both of them. Now, one of them, you have to be careful, because you'll want to have been driving the vehicle and have it up to operating temperature and everything, and tried to run the heater. But you're going to reach down and you're just going to be careful, like I said, and you'll touch. Now, one of those hoses coming through will just be so hot that you can't stand it, and the other one should be hot too. But what happens in this case, it gets clogged up, and the lower one, I believe, or the one that was on the kind of on the left there, was the one you could feel it, and you could tell that there was no heat whatsoever coming through there. So that told me that this thing is clogged up. Okay, another thing that I've done prior to doing this, I've run some flush through here. I want to make sure if there's any contaminants that I'm going to get them broke loose and clean it out a little bit. I just run some of this through here and drained it, and basically going to clean out anything that I can before I put this and go through all this work putting this in. Now you can see when you look at these small passage that are running this way, not the fins, but the passageways. Now once those get clogged up, there's just not a whole lot of anything you can do for it without replacing this. And you can see it comes with this little seal you stick on here, and should look something like this. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and get started here, and we're just going to work on the inside. And this has been set and it is cooled off, but we're going to go ahead and start on the inside. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is get in here and start removing this console. And you'll want to get your key and pull your lever back here somewhere, and make sure to have your vehicle chalked or whatever, and somewhere back in here so we can slip this off of here easy. Okay, now go ahead and disconnect using an 8mm. Disconnect your negative cable here. Okay, you want to also pull this emergency brake back as far as you can. We're going to need to slip it up and off of that as well. The first piece we're going to get is this little trim piece here. If you've got some little plastic tools, it works good. You just want to be delicate with this, and this just really snaps down in there. They really grip, and you can see they got those little grooves that go down in there and grab. So that's your first little piece to get that out of there. And now we're going to go ahead and start working on getting this piece up and start lifting it back here. And this will just lift right up and off of there. Now you do have your cigarette lighter disconnect. This is going to just slip right off of that, but we need to get it up enough here that we can get a hold of that cigarette lighter. So we're just going to be careful. You also got these little metal tabs, so don't break your console on it there. We're just going to lift it up and disconnect that cigarette lighter. Okay, you see that connector right there? You just give that a push down where it looks like a little Y or something there. Push that down, it slips that right off. Okay, so that's all there is. That piece is out of the way. Okay, and just to show you this cigarette lighter, see that part looks like kind of like a Y. You just push down, and then that pushes that tab down where you can slip that off. Okay, now I've got a 7mm. We're going to get started right up here. Got one on each side. I'm going to go ahead and take those completely out first. Okay, there's those 2 screws. Got those out. Okay, now we're going to come down here. We've got 2 more right over this side. And if you come over on this side, we got 2 more. We're going to take those 2 out of each side there now. Okay, so we got those 4. Those are out. And we got those out on this side. Okay, so the next ones we got are right down here, 7mm. You may need to move the seat back, and for that you'd have to reconnect your battery, but we got one right here. And then we've got one that's right over here. So those are on each side. I'm going to go ahead and remove those 2. Okay, so we got that one. We've got those up there. We've got this one right here. And then over on this side, we got that one out. Now we may have to go ahead. We've got a couple in the back here. We're going to have to go ahead and move this seat back up a little bit. Okay, so here's the screw, 7mm. It's back behind the seat. We just moved the seat up there a little bit, and we've got another one right over here on this side. We're just going to go ahead and remove those 2 now. Okay, now with those 2 out, this will be loose, and we can start moving it back. They'll be up in the front. There are some pins that locate this, and so you just kind of want to pull it back first. And there we have that, and then we're going to go ahead, once we get it back a little ways, we'll go ahead and finish working it out. You can see right here this pin, 1/4-inch pin, it slides into those areas, so just want to pull it back first before you go to yanking on it too much. But we should be able to carefully wiggle this out of here. Of course, it's got some metal tabs, but we should be able to wiggle it past that seat there. Okay, just to show you how I'm bringing this out of here, we got that setting coming up in the back. Now these on this side in particular want to hang up on this. You have to just watch those as you're pulling it back. Same way over here, it wants to try to hang up on a few of these tabs, so just watch that as you're pulling it back. But there's plenty of room. And I'm getting ready to go ahead and just pull it straight back up this way and out of there. Okay, so that's your first obstacle, and it's best to just go ahead and get that on out of the way so you're not having to deal with it later here. So we're going to go ahead and continue on here. Okay, I got my seat all the way back. The next thing I like to do is go ahead and tackle this steering column. And we've got a panel right here. You can see how these kind of hinge themselves in there. So they just slide in there, and then it just pops in those places right there. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and work on removing this piece, this collar around the steering column. We've got 3 of these, and we're going to go ahead and just take our Phillips and get those out. Okay, there's those 3. Now note that one's different. It actually has the fine threads and machine threads. The others are just going into plastic. Okay, the screws are out, but we have to separate the collar on both sides. I like to just use something like this that's thin, a putty knife or something. And if you can get in and push under this, it separates it pretty easy. Okay, so I'm just working it under there, and usually you can just separate it like that. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. You can see how it just kind of snaps together there, and there's pins. We're just going to do the same thing over here on this side, and then we're going to work it around our ignition there. Okay, so here it comes, and you can see the little pins and the snaps. This is the upper part. Just popped it off there first. And now for the lower part, we're just going to work it around that. And we can also tilt this down a little bit to kind of aid in removing that. But we just got to slip it over this and pop it out like so. So there's that piece, and you can see with it out here how this pops together. And it's a good idea to go ahead and put some of these screws back where they go. You can see it'll pop right back together just like that. And we're going to go ahead and put those screws that we took out. We're going to put the 2 in this, or the 3 in this, so we're not getting mixed up on what goes to what. Okay, I just put the screws back on here for now. Here's the machine screw. Goes into that part on the back, and then the 2 other screws go up here into this plastic. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and start disconnecting these connectors, and you'll just want to make some good mental notes of how stuff goes. And there's not very many connectors. This one here, you just pull up a little bit and pull that gray connector back, just like that. This one, we just push that down, disconnect that. Like I said, the battery is disconnected, so there's no danger of anything. Okay, and just make a good mental note of how things route. Now this has got a little snap that goes around this wire here that connects into that, and we need to pull that out, and we'll have to snap that back on there later. Now sometimes those can be difficult to get loose, but I have just cut the tape and took them loose, and then just retaped it as well to avoid breaking some connectors. So just ever how you want to do that. We're going to come over here, just push down here. It's very simple setup. We got a connector right here. We're going to push that in. You see that right there? Just push that in and then pull that down. And it looks like I'm going to need my other hand for this one. Okay, so there's that one. This popped right out of here. It pretty much just fell down when I took that loose. So these, you can see, are disconnected. There's one more snap that's right back up there, you can see. Now we'll have to push that off there. And it's got a, like I said, a snap that goes into that. We'll want to get a screwdriver and push that off of there. So we need to get everything, all the wires and the connectors, disconnected from the steering column before we move on. And we also got another connector back here, the same way, just push down. This is for this key cylinder. It pushed down back here, and then that slides out. Okay, so that one is loose. I pushed that off. This one here, I cut the tape that was holding it to this connector right here. So it was being stubborn, and I'll just tape that back when I put it back. But these wires are loose from the column now. Okay, with our wires loose from our steering column, we're going to move on down here. we've got this rubber piece. Give that a pull. Slide it back up here out of the way. And you look down here, you can see that 10 millimeter right there. And we're going to get a hold of that on this side. We'll want to put a mark here so we know this goes back in this orientation. So we'll put we'll get a permanent mark. We'll put a mark so we know to put this part right back in alignment with that. But right now, I'm going to go ahead and just work that bolt completely out of there. And I'm just using this 10 millimeter ratchet wrench to do that with. Okay, so there's that bolt out of that down there. You see I've got a little mark on it that you can see. I just took some fingernail polish and marked those both. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do, we're going to look up here. We've got 10 millimeters on each side. You can see the ones down here. And I'm just going to use my 3/8 ratchet wrench, or a ratchet here, and just start working these out. And I'll probably get the back ones first, and then we'll move up here to the front ones, and we'll get all but one, and then we'll get a hand on it before we go to taking it completely out. There's 3 of those, and so I'm fixing to get a hand on it and get this last one right here, but we've got the other ones you see out, so just one left holding it. And we get that one, it's going to fall down, but we're going to go ahead and lift this up and out of here. And we'll just pull this whole unit, everything that you see there, we're going to pull it right through here. That bolt right there is the last one holding it. Okay, here we are pulling the whole unit out, and the boot just fell off of it there, but we're just pulling this whole unit out through here, just like that. Okay, and here's what this looks like completely out. And this is the part that slides in. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to take the bolts we took out of these places and here, and we're going to put those back in here so we're not losing them or mixing them up. And we're just going to put them right back where they go for now. Okay, we're going to go ahead and remove these 7 millimeters right here, over here by our dash stuff here. Okay, there's those 2 screws. Okay, now we're going to start popping this whole piece off here. Now the knobs, just pull those off. There's going to be a lot of connections, so we'll probably just remove this from the back side. But you just start popping, just pull up here, start popping some of this. We got a connector back here as well. We're going to pull it out a little bit so we can get a little bit of room to work with here. Okay, so that's about as far, looks like, as we can get it for now. Okay, I started with this connector up here, just push down right there. It's upside down like that, so you just reach under, push that and pop that loose. It gives me a little bit more room, a little more slack. I'm going to come over here and work on this connector under here. Pull it up a bit. Okay, so this connector, you can see it has that little black wedge piece that goes into there, and you have to push that, either push this part down a little bit or push it up with a screwdriver to get that to separate. You can see a little rectangular part there. So I was just kind of prying on this without breaking it to pull it down enough to get it to pop out of there. Okay, these heat and air controls have a whole assortment of wires that you see going down there, but there's a couple of 7mm on each side, and then one and over here by the cigarette lighter. And I'm going to be using my little micro ratchet here to break those loose, and I'm just going to take those 7mm out of there by hand because there's just so many of these. It's going to make it easier to get those loose there. Okay, with the 4 out of the defroster, it makes things a lot easier. These here, take a mental note where these go. These are pretty straightforward for these controls, but you can also just take the Torx out. Okay, on this one you have to pull up on this plastic red tab to be able to push this back and get this. Okay, and there's that one. I'll just put this lock back on there. Okay, and here's this piece completely out of the way. So this will come off. There's just one Torx right here. I don't know, it looks like it's got some missing, but they're not there for whatever reason. And then that cigarette lighter over here. So just take good mental notes of where stuff is routed and everything as you're doing this. Okay, we're going to try to get this radio out here now. They make a special tool, like for all the Fords and everything. They have that tool that goes in there. I'm going to try to improvise and see if I can't push something down in these and get them out. Okay, this radio is pretty simple to remove with this piece off. I just took this and pushed this in on each side because I could go in right through this little hole. The tool, you have to come through here, and it pushes down, and then it comes through the lower one, comes through here. So I didn't have the tool. You can use like some little Allen wrenches to stick in these holes. You got to get it in here and push this thing over essentially, so it like goes in and then it pulls them over. You have to pull it like that, but I just took the screwdriver and pushed it through here and was able to pop it out on each side. So I'm just getting ready to pull it out here, and I'm going to disconnect these connectors in the back. So we just got that one there, the clips on the bottom, and then our antenna right there, and we'll be able to pull that out. Okay, so here's that connector. I said you just push on it right there, pops that off. Okay, we're just going to go ahead and remove this and get this out of the way so it's not getting damaged. We've got these 7s here. We're just going to go ahead and take those 4. So I said here, here, and here, and here. Okay, we got this pulled out. Just give that a push right there, and then this tab will flip back, and just going to go like that, and it'll disconnect that connector. So it's just on kind of a hinge there, so we'll set this out of the way safely. Alright, I'm going to get started on removing these pillars here now. You got these little covers, you can dig them out with your fingernail usually, and you're going to see an 8mm in there. And we're just going to do that to both of these, and we'll get in there with our 8mm socket. Now, a lot of this doesn't matter what order you do it in. It's got to be done. So you could pretty much start on a lot of the stuff wherever you want, but I've got most of this, the console's out, and I'm just working on, we got to get these off, and then we'll get the one on the other side, and then we'll hop down here and take these kick panels and stuff off, because we're going to need to get down there. And then we got some bolts down here. I have to pull that carpet back a little bit as well. We're just, just work on it what order, you feel like doing it, Okay, those are 7mm. I said 8. Those are 7mm that are going into this handle here. So we got that out, and that handle's off. And there's those. Now we should be able to pop this out and give it a little lift. And you can see how that end goes down into that part of the dash right there. And then these just snap up in to here. And we're just going to do the same thing on the other side. Let's see, here's this, I don't know if you can make that out. There's a little part, it's kind of hard to see. There it is. You can see right there, that's where that end slips into. Okay, so we're just going to remove the other one the same way. Okay, with those pillars out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and start on these kick panels. There's these little tabs here you have to separate. I like to use a couple of screwdrivers to get in here and pop one side and the other. And you pop that up, and then you're able to pull that whole piece out. And that just pushes down in there and spreads it out so it locks in there. So we've got one right there. We got another one here. And then we've got another one that's right down in here. And then with those two here, we can go ahead and pop this up very easily. Get that out of the way. And then this piece, we took that, so this will pop out of here as well. It's just kind of clipped in there with a couple of these spring clips, or actually just one right there. So with that one little snap, you just have that, and then this end just kind of goes on to that stud there. It just slips on there, kind of holds it in place. So now we got that out of the way, and we'll just do the same thing on the other side, just so we can get down here and get the stuff that we need to get to. Okay, we got our kick panels off both sides, and you can see this antenna wire right here. As a matter of fact, you can go ahead and disconnect that. Just give that a pull. So now that's disconnected from the dash. I think I'm going to go ahead and get this glove box. Just push in on these on each side. Give it a push. And just like that, it'll pop down. And we're going to go ahead and take those two 7s that are holding it, and you can see those little plastic, that plus sign, that aligns it. So when you put it back on, that helps align it and hold it into place. But we're just going to take these two 7s out of here and set this aside. Okay, glove box is out. We're going to go ahead and pop this little side panel off on this side. I got my little 2-inch putty knife. Just pops in there with those little plastic clips, and we'll just wiggle this thing out of here. It's definitely not a bad idea to wear gloves when doing this. You'll cut your hands up pretty good on a lot of this stuff. Even the plastic can cut you pretty bad. We're going to go over to the other side and do the same thing. We've got another panel over there, but you can see, you can start to see these bolts that we've got that are hidden in here. Okay, we're just on the driver's side. We're going to do the same thing. Just pop this out of here. Okay, I think we're going to start down here. We're going to have to disconnect some of these connectors here, but just want to pull this carpet back here a little bit, and you can see we've got those 10mm right there. And if you remove this little piece, just has some little plastic clips. It's very easy to pop off of here. It's just give it a little pull right there, and you can. It's got another snap up there that you can remove. You just pop that out or use a Phillips screw, but you can pull that out of there. It gives you a little bit of slack. So we just have to get those two. We're just going to start with those two 10 millimeters, and just like I say, make sure to keep up with your bolts where they go. It's not a bad idea to put them back where they came from, you know, that way you don't get them mixed up. Okay, there's the two bolts out of there. We're just going to move over to the other side, do the same thing. And here you can see the two bolts on the passenger side hiding down there. There's those two bolts from out of there. And I think we're going to go ahead and work on these connectors. And that's going into the fuse panel. You just push down there, slide this all the way back. And we're going to get on this other side and get this other one. You just push down, do the same thing. Let's just give it a push right there. It's got a lock. Push it all the way back. And then we've got one right here. It's got a little bit of a lock. We have to slide that. You have to push that while you push that over. A little lock right there. And push the whole thing that way. Pops that completely out. Okay, we're popping this little plastic panel off. There's that little clip. Goes up in there. We've got some more connections down here. Everything that is connected to the dash is going to have to be disconnected down here. So we've got another connector down here that we got to get. Just push down on that, and then that will release that. And possibly this one here is probably going to have to come off of there too. We'll just go ahead and take it for now. Okay, that clip back there I couldn't get a good view of. You just push down in this back part right here and it disconnects us. So just push down right there, or push down with a screwdriver. So we've got those disconnected. We're going to go ahead, I think, and focus our attention up here. We've got these two tins, and we'll get these, and then we'll get on that other side. We got some other connections here as well. Okay, and just get in here with the long extension. It makes easy work of these over here on this side. There's what those look like. And we're going to go to the other side and get those other ones on that other side the same exact way. Okay, come up here in the center of your dash. So these little putty knives work wonders. Pop that little cap up. You can see in there we got a 10. I'm just using my little micro. I don't know if you can see that or not, but there's a 10 millimeter bolt in there, and we are going to get on that and attempt to work it out here. There's not a lot of clearance, so you have to use a little ratchet like this, something real low profile. But anyways, we're going to go ahead and get that bolt completely out of there. It shouldn't be real tight. Okay, and there's that out of there. And I'll just snap that back on there so I'm not losing that or the bolt. Okay, come down here where our odometer and stuff is at. Look right back under in here. That rusty 10 millimeter right there, that nut. We're going to get on that and get that loose with a long extension here. Okay, and there's that. and you can see how we're loosening it up here. Okay, we're gonna focus on this hood pop. We come under here. You can see if you pull it, there are a couple of these 8mm. We're gonna get right up there and start removing these. And then we'll be able to release this cable here. And you can see that one I'm getting on this side. And we just got the one on the other side there. And we'll have this. Okay, we got a clip right here. It's got a little lock. Push it that way. And it'll release that harness right there. And looks like over here we've also got what looks to be an 8mm. We'll need to get that off there, that ground. So we'll go ahead and take that right there loose. It's using a deep socket to get a little bit of an extension to get past. It's pretty snug. Put all these bolts back where they go. One thing, you won't lose them, and the other thing, you'll know where a ground or something like that goes without having to do any guesswork. Okay, you'll note this wire running down, and it goes right here. There's another ground right here on the body. We need to go ahead and remove that. It looks like it's going to be a 10 possibly. Okay, and that is in fact a 10mm right here. Okay, we're going to work on disconnecting this wire. It's running down here, and it like runs to this snap. I just peeled that tape back, disconnect that, and we've got a connector going under here. Looks like it's got a safety lock right there. We need to pull back, and once we get that out of there, just pull back on that red safety lock. We got a connection right here. Let's give that a push down. We got another connection right here. Let's take that off of there. It just goes right there. Just give that a push or a squeeze right there. That takes care of that. We've got one more little snap right here that we need to push through. And we'll just be mindful, like I said, of how this goes back, so we're not getting things mixed up. Sometimes you can just push those through a little bit. Sometimes. Alright, so that's got this loose from here, and we'll just kind of roll it back up here when we're taking things out. And we're just going to go over to the other side and see what we've missed. It looks like we're getting pretty well loose on this side. Okay, I think we got everything fairly well loose. I come over here, there's just this one right here I missed. Just push down on that and disconnect that from there, but everything is loose. I'm going to go ahead and get some assistance with getting this lifted out of here. I'm hoping that I don't have to disconnect all this. I'm just going to try to just push this back through carefully when I'm removing it, because I don't want to disconnect all this stuff. But that may not work. I'm just going to see how it's going to go here. Okay, I missed a couple connections here. There is this connector that goes right back up here, and you just push down on that tab right there, and then I've got the one to my blower motor. Just pull on that, and then we got that disconnected. Okay, so there was one this clip that I missed down here, it was on this thing. I took that off, and I figured out that this wasn't going to go through. There's too many wires and stuff in the way to put that back through there. So I'm just going to show you this. And this is why I didn't want to have to mess with. It's a lot of connectors. This one slides in here, and you basically got to pull out on these tabs on both sides so to clear these little clip things. You can use a little screwdriver too. You can see how it locks into those. Okay, well, that's that one. The other ones are pretty straightforward. This one has a push-in connector, goes down on the bottom. This one, you just pull on this. It's pretty self-explanatory where they go. This one here, you just have the little push down. Oh, this is for the top. Let me see. Okay, so the other vacuum hoses, okay, this one went just like this, and it has those same little tabs you can see sticking out on each side, and they lock in to these little black pieces, and you have to pull, you have to spread these, you have to push them out like that, or if it hangs up, use a little screwdriver. Just be careful, don't break your clips and your connectors. And the only thing I got left is these cables right here. Okay, so this piece is pretty simple to disconnect. You just have these clips, you have to spread them all at once, pull that and pull that up, and pull this one to the side, and it just slips in and over these little black clips that you see here. So you just have to spread it over the tops of each one of those, and then the whole thing just pops off of there like that. So we did finally get that off of there. So now we don't have to worry about this. So the main thing is make sure to get your stuff routed back through where it goes, and all the vacuum lines and everything. So now everything is cleared up, and we're going to go ahead and work on pulling this through here. Okay, when I pulled this out a little bit, there's another connector right here. You push down these vacuum lines. I actually pulled it loose. It fastens right there. So don't forget to get that part. And I've got looks like a couple cables that need to pull through, but other than that, looks like I've got everything. Okay, there's also a vacuum connection right here because those go to different hoses, so disconnect it here at this. And we also have a little thing right here that these cables and the vacuum hoses go in, and I need that loose so I can pull these cables back through like that. So now everything should be completely disconnected at this point. Okay, so here's a view of it out of the vehicle, and it wasn't that difficult to get to this point. I've spent maybe 3 hours, not even getting in a big hurry this afternoon. It seems like a lot of stuff, but there's nothing difficult. Here's a view at the inside. Now, I also took the time to put all of the bolts back to where they go, all the bolts back into the firewall and the places they come out of. That way I'm not losing them in the meantime, and I know exactly where they go. So the nuts and the bolts and everything, I took the time to just put them back. So this is all there is to your HVAC box. I said it's not a hard job getting in here, and you know, it's something that's going to be really expensive if you have to take it in and have it done, versus putting in a few hours, a weekend, or whatever yourself, and saving yourself $1,000 and said you got to have heat, and the heat's not working at all in here. So this is where the vacuums and hoses and stuff go in and operate these doors and stuff. And here's the cables that operate the blend door. You can see how you also got some all these are vacuum operated as well over here. All these canisters operating these blend doors. And as far as the seals and the doors themselves, look to be in pretty good shape. Okay, and you'll note in the beginning of the video I didn't mention anything about having to have your AC evacuated, because you don't have to in this vehicle. Unlike some, you simply cannot do the heater core without removing the entire HVAC box, having your AC evacuated and everything. But this one was actually pretty well made. This is your door operation for your cable. Give this little tab a push over and then just pull that straight off. Now right here is our access. We've got 3 of these 8 millimeters. Let's go ahead and take these out, and you'll notice there is that is part of the door system, that wire right there, and it's kind of in the way. You can remove it, or you can simply wiggle this little door out of here, and I've been able to do it either way. I'm going to get these screws out first. And I said this is completely loose, and I just wiggle it down here and work it out like that. But now if you want to take this, this thing will push off, but to get it back on, you have to lift up on this little thing right here, because this is what locks it. You have to lift up on that in order to slide this forward to be able to pop that back on. So anyways, now you can see that we have access to this, and we can get it out through here. Now the other thing we're going to have to do is go out here to the firewall. Okay, now you could handle this in one or two ways. Now you'll note that the heater core hoses are a little bit lower than everything, so you're going to lose some coolant. Now you could take those loose and take a connector and just butt them together temporarily, or pull them back up here higher than this and not fuss with it and clamp them or something. I've just got coolant flush in here, so I'm going to actually come down here and drain this down enough to where I shouldn't have to even worry about it. But I have also just took the hoses loose and just put a pan underneath to catch any that comes out, and just took the hose and wrapped them back up here and held them up higher than the tank. And then I've lost like maybe a half a cup of coolant doing it that way. So you can do that either way. I'm going to go ahead and drain mine down. To do that, on this one you need a remember, it's one of these Allen wrenches. I think it's the number 8 or the number 6. And we get under here, and you can see we got the Freon hose and everything in the way. You can see the spout right there, but up above that is a Allen headed. You can fill it with your fingers. It's almost impossible to show you here, but you can feel it. You can barely see it right there. It takes an Allen headed, and just loosen that off and drain it into your pan. That's what I'm going to do right now. Okay, that was in fact a number 8 Allen. That we want to remove this to get it draining real good. And if your coolant's clean, you can simply just put it right back in if you want to drain it down this way. So just either way you want to do it. I'm doing this because I'm having to, this is coolant flush. I want to be draining it all out anyways and refilling it. I just wanted to make sure that my system was clean before putting this new heater core on here. And I'm going to be putting a new radiator on as well, but that's going to be in another video. I think I'm just going to let this drain. Probably going to get back on it in the morning. It's starting to get kind of late. Okay, so before we get started taking these hoses loose, I've got a long extension with a swivel. We got a 13 millimeter, and we're going to get back here, and you can see those two 13s right there holding this. Because of the limited room, we need to at least get this out of the way. This is how I find it easier. And we're just going to take that bracket loose and kind of push it down. So we're going to go ahead, get in there with this extension and get those studs out of there. Okay, and you can see how the swivel and extension comes in handy getting back in there. There's those two studded bolts. You can see that's just dropped down. I'm just going to kind of just push it down where it's a little bit more out of my way here. I'm not going to unhook anything. I'm just going to push it down where I can get my arm down through there a little easier. Okay, there's a little hose strap here that goes up to that stud that you see right there. And all I've done is just pop that off out of the way. Just pushing that strap back out of the way as well. Just holds those hoses up. So we're taking just a small set, and you can see, if I can get down in here, and it's not real easy. Let me see if I can come through this way to show you. I already moved the clamps back a little bit, as you can see, and they're not real easy to get to. But anyways, I went ahead and pushed those back there, and I was using the small pliers to do that, and they're kind of difficult and they're not oriented in the right way. But just coming from under here like so, I was able to get my arm back down under there with that out of the way, and it took me a minute to move those. But now these hoses aren't just going to pop off of here either. They're stuck onto those pipes, so we're going to get a little pry bar here and try to pop them off. Okay, so I'm just using a small little pry bar because it fits down in there better. Okay, and we're just getting down here, we're just prying on this. Now it's going to be really stuck. It almost glues itself, but once you kind of like get it, the seal broke loose, the hose will start coming off there. You just got to keep working with it, and once you get it kind of broken loose, essentially it'll pop right off there. Okay, so put you a drain pan down there to catch anything that comes out. It wasn't much in my case because I've already drained it. And just take your hoses and pull them up here out of the way so they're not dripping. Okay, and you can just reach your arm down in there and just give these a push. If you can see it all, just give it a push, and you can see it pushing back. And we'll go ahead, and as we're pulling this out from the inside, we'll go ahead and give it a tilt. So hopefully we're not making a big mess in here. Well, I think we'll go ahead and get another pan, a small pan, and put under here so it's not getting on the carpet. Okay, so here we go. We'll just carefully try to work this out. It's probably going to be no way of avoiding spilling a little bit in there, but we'll dry it out if there is. So there is that, and you can see how it just easily pushes right through there. I actually like this design, and I wish a lot more of them were made this way. This is a very common parts I have to replace, even more common than anything else in these things. Okay, and it's just kind of like there wasn't much in here. I was emptying this out a little bit, and it looks sort of like there had been some stop leak putting in this vehicle at one time or the other, and don't know exactly why, but because there was nothing leaking that I could see, but there's definitely something that looks like has been put in here that's clogged this up, and that's another reason why I flushed the system, and I'm also going to be taking the radiator off and replacing it. I don't want any of this stuff to wind up right back in here again. So we're going to make sure that this is flushed out well, because there is just nothing getting through this at all. It's just, and I would just assume that there's been something put in here at one time or the other that's caused this. And here's the new one. It doesn't have the same type of seal, but doubt that it matters a whole lot. We're just going to put this seal here around it as best we can and call it good. But that's a view of it, and it does look, other than just the gasket running around it, it looks pretty much identical to this other one, and it'll get the job done. Okay, so we just wrapped it around, and we got some excess. We're going to cut that and just put it around these pipes here. Just take some scissors and cut it. And there we just kind of improvise that, just as long as we're creating a seal is what counts. And I've got some more of this stuff if I wanted to. That's good enough. Okay, so here we are, and you'll notice that one way is slightly a little bit farther to this pipe than it is on the other part, and that is going to go in. And you can also look in here, you can tell that one side's a little bit, the distance a little bit farther. Well, you want to make sure that you put that side just like that, and we should just be able to slide it right in there, give it a push, and then we will go ahead and wiggle this back into place here, and we should be able just to get it right back under there without removing that, just like I did. And now we are just going to go ahead and replace these screws. And then we'll go ahead and snug those down. And we're using our 8mm here. As a precaution, verify that everything is still working here properly before you go to putting things back together, that nothing got disturbed. Okay, we're going to go ahead and just slap this piece back on here, and then we'll go back out and put our hoses back on. But it just goes just like this. This goes up onto here, lines it up, and then that just slaps right in there. So we just wiggle it and just verify that it's locked, and it is, and that's all there is to that. Okay, so we're back here at the firewall. You can take some full strength coolant and just put it around those a little bit. Just put you a little around those, and that's going to make it easier to slide your hoses on. And we're just going to go ahead. Like I said, I got a catch pan down there. These are labeled on, which, like this one here is the lower, and also put marks on here, but they're labeled so you know which one goes where. So we're just going to feed it back down here one at a time. And we're going to go ahead and put the lower one over onto the left side there. There's that one in place, and I'm going to put these clamps on there one at a time as well. I would like to go ahead and put some of the screw styled clamps, but I don't have any handy, so we'll go back with these. But it definitely would make it easier removal next time. And there we have the first one in place there, and then we're just going to go ahead and slide our other hose on. Okay, and there's our other one. You just kind of see the way I'm going at it from the right side. Now I will say they were easier to put back on, but that's because I have them oriented to the right there where I can get at it with my pliers, which was the easiest for me, so it went back on easier than taking them off because I had to spin them around. Okay, remember we got a strap that goes up here on stud, if you can see that. I just hung that back there, keeps it up off that exhaust manifold. Now we're going to go ahead and put this device, vacuum device, back up here with these two studded bolts. Okay, and I'm just using this extension with my swivel and tightening those bolts back in there. Okay, and we're fixing to go ahead and work the dash back into place. Now I do have to get a helper for this. It's just way easier. I'd get one person, get it set here, and another person on the other side, and then we could pick it up and tilt it to get it past the shifter. Now you could take this loose and kind of get it out of your way a little bit, but I really don't want to mess with that, so it's best just to tilt it. And I brought it out this way through the passenger side. I'm just going to go back in through the passenger side. It seemed to work out pretty good doing it that way. And remember, this is one of the tricky ones that's back in behind there. We'll need to get this reconnected. And then there's one over here, needs to be reconnected. And just a few things that are back in behind there. And we'll also pay attention to route this cable back up through where it goes. Now also I put these here, so I want to take those back loose before I go to setting this into place, but I didn't want those getting lost in the meantime. So now we'll go ahead and take all those and set them over here and lay them out ready to go. Okay, just got it set in here coming through this side, and it clears pretty easy. A couple people. The first thing that I'm tackling is this cable, feeding it back up through here. You can see right there, you see this thing here that holds the vacuum and these cables. So you route it right back up through there, and it's going to come through right here. Just pull that back up through there. And then we got this vacuum connection right here that we need to reattach right here. And we're just going to feed that. You can see that two of these are not in use, or one of them's not in use rather. Two of them are only being used here. That top one goes up to that top one there that's not in use, and it just snaps together very easily. And we're going to put these and that cable back in this right here that holds it up there out of the way. Okay, now when you set this down in here, right here, I probably should have showed this earlier, there is a alignment pin that goes in that slot right there. So if you don't get this up high enough over that, get it into alignment, it will not set into place. Once that alignment pin's there, it sets there and lines those right back up, and that's the same on both sides. Make sure this wire is not underneath that when you set it down. It should be out here like this. You should have this wire I had tucked up here. This is going to run back to the accessories here in its various places here. We've got a few connections. There's not a lot. This harness goes back over here. And there's a wire right there. It just makes it a little, don't have a lot of room. That one's into place. That one doesn't have to be disconnected. I disconnected that earlier. Got our vacuum harness right here. It just goes right into that. And you've seen the stuff that I reconnected on the other side. And so there is that. We probably could get a few of these connections over here while we're at it. We've got this one here that runs back behind this, and you just push it in there and lock that lever. And see, I'm sliding back out. I've got it, these clips up here, those shove into place. Also this one right here where the nut goes on, you kind of have to line that up a little bit. It will pop out of there and you won't be able to push it forward. So line that up, give it a push. Okay, and you may have to go from one side to the other. If it's lined up, it'll just snap right into place easily without any trouble at all. Remember, we've got a ground right here. I'm going to go ahead and put that. That's a 10. I'm going to go ahead and put that back right there. Okay, there's that ground. We've got another one right here that we need to reconnect. And we're just going to get up, push that into place, and we'll use our deep 8mm to get in there and get that one right there. Okay, now the snaps up there are holding it for now, so I'm just working on some of these. We're going to go ahead and get this hood pop here and get it reattached. There is a couple of little prongs on there that help align this, and we'll just get it into place here and get those 8mm back in there, and that's all that there is to this. Okay, so we're just tightening these down here. Okay, we're just going to start over here with these two 10mm and get them going in here in each of these spots. And then we'll get those. We'll make sure to, we'll run them down, but it won't tighten. We'll kind of tighten everything at once. That way if there's anything off alignment, it'll have a little bit of wiggle room to it. But I don't expect that to be a problem. So there's those two. We'll just run those down a little bit. Okay, we're just using an assortment of extensions to get in there to this. Okay, now we just tighten these two over here on this passenger side. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and put these two in down here at the console area. We got these two. We're going to go ahead and put them in on this side. Okay, now we're over here on the drivers. We're going to go ahead and put these two in right here. Okay, so we've got those two run down. We're going to go ahead and come up here, and we're going to put this little 10mm back onto that stud right there. To make it easier, I'll probably use a magnet to get it started so I'm not dropping it there. Okay, so we're just snugging this down with our 10mm here. Okay, and don't forget about the one that goes up here hidden underneath this. We've got another 10mm right here. And we just need to work that. It's hard to show you this one, but you can kind of feel and get it down into place there. Okay, and here we are just using this little micro ratchet to fasten that one down. And with that snug down, go ahead and snap your cap back on there. Okay, I'm just going to go around now that everything is snugged into place and just give everything its final tighten. Okay, just to recap, the bolts, 2 on each side down here. You got 2 on each side of the vehicle, passenger drivers. We got 1 up there, and then we got 1 10mm nut right there. Just to help make it a little simpler. Now we're just going to go through at this point and connect whatever connectors that we have remaining. And we got this one. It's going to go right here. And remember, it has these locking tabs and stuff that we have to lock down. We just snap those into place. Okay, and then we got this one. I think I've got it backwards. And it has the locking tabs for it as well. Okay, I had it opened up the wrong way. It's supposed to start out like that, and then you pull it back here and lock it. It was already pushed the wrong way. So there are those 2. This goes back right here. We'll get some more tape around that. Make sure that stays where it's supposed to. This gonna lock on right there. And this has got a snap that pushes through right here. Just push that through. And we'll get this connected right here. And then it looks like we got 1 more down here. Push that red lock forward. Lock that back. So it should look just something like that. And now we're going to go over to the other side. I believe we got everything over here for now. We'll go over to the passenger side here. Okay, so the first thing we're going to tackle, this is our antenna. Go ahead and connect that. Push that back together real hard. And then we've got, this is for a blower motor. Let's give that a push until it snaps. And then this one goes right back under here. And that one snapped on. So now we'll move over here. We've got a connector we took loose right here. Just push that back up on there and snap it. And then we've got this big connector right here. And we'll just slide that back forward and lock it. Okay. Okay, and as you can see, it's not that difficult. We've got the majority, the hardest part is done here. We just need to, I think we'll go ahead and get our radio, get our defroster controls and stuff back in here next. We'll work on that. So it's really simple. You know, once we get these into place, get our odometer and our steering column back in there, there's, you know, get our console, we're done. So it's not, it looks like a lot, but it's really not. It's not difficult. So anyway, I think we're going to head and get a radio and work on our defrost control here. Okay, so we're going to make sure this is up through here. All we need is our antenna, and we need this. We go into that and then put our antenna in here, and we just got this that slides on that metal track right there, and then it's just a matter of pushing it in there, and then these spring locks here do the rest. Okay, so there we are, and we're getting ready to slide it on our metal track there. Okay, with our heat and air control, it's a lot more difficult taking it apart than it is putting it back together. Putting it back is pretty straightforward and simple. We've got the vacuum lines that go there, connector here, connector here, connector here, and then our cables that go right here. We'll connect these here first, I believe, and then we'll connect the cable last. So we'll just get started, make sure we got everything that we need here pulled up. This actually is going to go, so we need our, there is our vacuum. Oh, actually we got another vacuum here too that goes in there as well, so we need to get that pulled up here. Okay, so we've got these going to our like AC controls. Just show you what I've connected: the wire connector, the vacuum lines, little connector pushed on there, more vacuum lines, another connector. So it's really simple to snap it back together. These go back over here out of the way. It goes to our console piece. This here is really straightforward. You just push it on to that right there, and then these snap right into place. It should pretty much line itself up here. But there we go. So now I've got it lined up. I've got the connectors lined up, so we just snap it right on. It's that simple. Okay, now because it, to me, it's easier to snap these on because there's not a lot of slack than trying to have the console piece on and trying to snap these into place. So that's why I chose to do it this way. But you know, if it's easier to do it the other way, you're welcome to do that. So I think we're going to go ahead and get our odometer back over here, get into place. Okay, we're just going to go ahead and get this back on here. Just push that back. And it's it'll sit on those little pegs right there, and then those will stop it right there where it needs to be. So we're just going to take these 7mm. We got 4 of them here all together, and we're just going to put here, here, and here, and here, and snug those down. Okay, and there that is in place. Okay, before we go to snapping this piece back up here, we're going to take the screws and screw this back on to this part right here. So we've got our 4 screws right down here. We're just going to get them started by hand and use my little micro ratchet, and then we'll go ahead and reconnect these right here as well. And that's these here. Okay, I was just reconnecting the AC controls. So you got that gray, tan, that one with the safety lock. That safety lock has to be up. The red one, for you can push that in to the airbag. And then you got the blue one, and that one on the end is empty. And we're going to go ahead and just work on putting the screws back to the heat and air controls there. Okay, it's very easy to get back there with a little micro ratchet and tighten those 7mm. We're going to go ahead and get the cigarette lighter right over here. It's the last connection that I got, and we're going to work on just snapping it back up into place here. We've got these alignment pegs that go into here and then the snaps, so we just kind of watch it and just firmly push it into place here. Okay, and as you get everything lined up, you should very easily be able to push it into place. Now we do have a connection over here as well that I've got to get. We're going to snap that back in there. And the purple one for the emergency flashers. I was about to forget that one as well. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and push it into place. And then we'll get our buttons for our controls up here. And there we are. So we'll go ahead and get these buttons on, and I'll work on getting these two over here. Of course, our knobs have that half moon, whatever shape, and you just make sure you put that part, get that lined up on there, and just push it straight on. So there those are. Okay, now we're getting these two screws. We've got the one right there, and we're getting the one on this side. I'll just snug both of these down. Here's our pieces for a radio trim. We're just going to be popping those back on here. And I may have it on the wrong side. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get our steering column back in. You'll notice that little blue block there that goes in there as well. There's like a certain way that goes, and we'll want to put that back. It's like a little plastic piece. It is split, but I don't just have another one handy. It's got a like a beveled part that this like goes in there on this side. I guess it's a little spacer, but anyway, we're going to put that back in there. It came out of there. We'll also put us some a little bit of medium Loctite on this, but we've got, you can see that little pink dot right there, if you can make it out. We're going to line up the mark on my steering column as I put this back, and we've got these bolts here that I just put back into place, but we'll just have these 4 bolts and then that down there. And what I usually like to do, I'll get it set in here, and we'll get it started into this and lined up, and then I'll go ahead and get a bolt started up here and to hold it, and then we can get the rest of them in, and we'll go ahead and snug that down back there. Okay, so I set it, coming in through here. Make sure to bring the column around this brake pedal. I set it in there. You can see both of the marks there, and we come up here, and I just loosely started the bolts. You can see that one there, and you can probably see that one right there. I just started these front two a little bit. We're going to go ahead and put the spacer so that it goes just like that. The big part goes that way, and the bolt comes in from the right there. So I'm going to put the space in there. I have to hold this with one hand to keep it from falling. And then I'm going to start feeding that bolt through there. So we're just going to go ahead and do that. Okay, I'm just in here with my 10mm ratchet wrench. And we're just going to snug this down. I did put some medium Loctite on this bolt. And we're going to go ahead and just snug it down really good and tight. I'm just going to be getting it as tight as I can get it with this little wrench here. Okay, now in case you forget to put your boot on like I did there, you can drop it down. It'll simply swing down, and you can swing it right back up through here and just lift this right back into place like that. So don't forget your rubber boot, or you'll be doing like me and having to take it off and put it back. Okay, so we got that just as tight as we could get it with our little ratchet there, and now we're ready just to go ahead and snap this back into place here. It just snaps on. Okay, we're going to go ahead, I'm going to put a little Loctite on these as well. We're going to go ahead and work these bolts in. Let's see, we've already got the two started, and we got to get the back two that go back there. If you can see that where that goes there, but it's kind of, it's farther back there. Anyways, right here and right over here. We got to get those back too. We'll put a little medium Loctite on these. Okay, and all you have to do is just get you an extension, and just you can get these going quite a good ways just by hand. Okay, with that steering column tight, we're going to go ahead and start reattaching some of these here. And we'll go ahead and get this one right here. Okay, I had that one in the wrong position. It fastens right there, so I had to pull those wires up around that. Okay, so I'm working on these wires on this side. The clip goes right there. This little green one goes here. It's going to go right here. And that's all those. And looks like we got one more here. Okay, I think we're going to go ahead and start popping some of these panels and stuff back on here. And these are pretty straightforward. We've got all of our wires. And we'll get the one on the other side. Okay, we're going to go ahead and work on the glove box next. We just got these two screws that go right in there, the 7mm. Go ahead and fasten those down. Okay, with those tight, we just need to pop this back up into place. Okay, we're going to go ahead and start popping this collar on. We need to lower this. We're just going to work this up into place, and then we'll get our top piece going up here. We'll snap those together. Okay, now we're going to get under here. The machine screws going in the back here, and just dropped it, but anyway, it goes in the back. Okay, so we got the Phillips screws back in there. Now we're going to take our flap here, and we slide it back down into here. There we have that back into place. Okay, we're just going to go ahead and take our kick panels. We'll start with this one. And we'll slide it back up here under or onto that stud it has down there. We'll pop it into place here. Okay, so there we have that in place. We're going to take this little pin, feed it back into where it goes here. And give that a push down. Now we're just going to take this, and it has some places that slip down into those rectangle areas, and that's really the only thing you need to do. And we're going to take the pins and get them back in there. And then we got one that's down here. It's kind of hard to see. And then we're just going to go do the same on the other side with our kick panels. Okay, now we're going to work on our pillar here. And it's the same on both sides. Just get that hook into that slot you see right down there. Let me see if I can zoom in. Just goes into that right there, and then the clips just go right back into these places here. Just going to go ahead and work that in there, and we'll have to also get it around this seal here, so we may need to pull that out in order to get it behind it. We're just going to snap that in now. Okay, and there's that snapped into place. We just got to get our handle back up on here and just pop these back off, and I've got my screws in there, my 7mm. Okay, so I've just tightened those 7mm, and I'm just getting ready to pop the caps back on to that pillar there, and I'll just do the same thing on the passenger side. Okay, we've got everything done up here. We're going to go ahead and start working this console back in. We'll just do it like we took it out. Started back here at the back, and we'll just slide it up and back in the way. And we got the little metal 1/4 inch dowels that line up right there. So we've got everything connected. So we just need to get we'll get the console slid back into place, and then we'll work on getting our 7mm screws put back into that. Okay, and we just have to watch that we don't hang up on any of the stuff coming down through here, but it will slide back in here even with the seats in place. And we're just starting back here. Got it setting. We're just going to shove it forward, and then these on each side line up into the holes here, and then the screws line up here. We'll have to make sure we leave our wire up for our cigarette lighter. And so we're just going to start working it down in there. This is the last piece we got. Okay, and here we are pushing the dowel pin. We'll line this side up as well, and we just almost got it into place here. Just a little bit farther. Okay, and when this is into place, as long as the back is sitting down and it's on around the metal there, everything will line up. So we're just going to go ahead, work on these front screws here and here first. Using a little magnet works good for getting these up here into place, because it's kind of easy to drop them because of the way they sit back in there. Okay, now we're going to get these two screws in here, and we'll do the same on both sides. Okay, so we got those two, and we did the same on the other side. It's exactly the same. And we're going to come back here And we're going to get this screw in right here, the 7mm. Okay, and there's that one. Like I said, it's exactly the same on both sides. Okay, so we moved this seat up, this passenger seat, and we can get to this one right down here. And like I said, again, it's the same on both sides. So we just have to push the other seat up and do the exact same thing on that other side. Okay, now we just got our console trim piece. We're going to get our cigarette lighter connector connected under here, and then we're going to start working it back down onto these shifters, and the console lid is up, and we'll snap it right into place. Okay, it's just as easy as that. It just slips right back on here, as long as your shifter is in the middle and as long as your emergency brake is pulled up. We'll just line it up and snap it right down into place. Now we've got our little trim ring, and we'll just push that down on there firmly, and then that has that. Okay, this little piece that goes down here, I thought I could get it in there after I put the console, but it actually needs to go beforehand, so I had to temporarily take those two back out to get some slack, because this goes behind it and it's got to slip on to these metal bars here a little bit here. So I'm going to slip that on there. Okay, when that's on there, it has another little piece that goes right in here. It snaps that. And then we'll just put those screws back in. Okay, and that's everything back together here. And so the only thing you'll need to do is just refill what little, if any, coolant that you lost. So I've got mine drained out. Anyways, I'm going to be slapping a radiator on here. Okay, and just to show you that everything is running and back together, everything is operating. We're just going to have to, I'm going to have to get my radiator changed before I do anything more with it. But that's going to conclude this video. So I hope you found it helpful. If you did, please give the video a like. And as always, I invite you to subscribe and check out some other videos. And thank you for watching.